He looked at himself in the mirror. Thinning hair, a belly that was no longer flat, eyes tired. He sighed and thought to himself, maybe my time has passed. No one said that to him directly, but he saw it every time he entered a room and her eyes no longer lingered. He felt it every time he sat beside her while she seemed to be in another world. And bit by bit he began to believe, I'm no longer young enough, no longer attractive enough, no longer the man she looks forward to. So he started trying, losing weight, hitting the gym, running, buying body-hugging dress shirts, researching hormones, testosterone, dating tips, ways to become attractive to his wife again. He did everything except one thing, quietly being there, truly, with her. Until one day, a woman who used to look at him for a long time said just one sentence. You don't need to be younger. I just need someone strong enough for me to be weak. At that moment, he went silent. Not out of shame, but because he realized all this time he hadn't lacked attractiveness. He had just lost it in the effort to become an acceptable version, instead of returning to the quiet confidence of a mature man. And you might be the same. You don't need to do more. You don't need to become younger. You just need to truly be present, and everything will change. After the divorce, Mike believed that if he wanted a fresh start, he also needed a new version of himself. He went to the gym 6 times a week, got a younger-looking haircut, bought expensive cologne, watched videos on how to get women's attention, memorized scripted lines meant to impress. He tried to smile at the right moments, tried to listen the right way, tried to nod just enough during dates. And the most painful part? None of it worked. She, the woman sitting across from him, still smiled politely, still said thank you, still acted kind. But her eyes didn't linger on him for more than 3 seconds. Because no matter how hard he tried, she still saw what he couldn't hide. The tension, the insecurity, the fear of rejection. Women over 50 are not attracted to what you've built, but to how they feel when they're around you. And that feeling doesn't come from a well-fitted suit or a clever line. It comes from the calm in the eyes of a man who no longer needs to prove anything. Mike didn't know that the more he tried to impress, the more he gave off the signal, I'm not enough. I'm trying to become someone you'll accept. And the woman across from him didn't need a polished version. She needed a place, a shoulder that wasn't perfect, but solid like the ground beneath her feet. And that's what men often forget in their journey to rediscover love after 50. They do more, but show up less. Mike met her at a small gathering. She wasn't flashy, didn't wear much makeup, but her eyes, calm and sharp like someone who had loved deeply, made him feel like he was facing something real, not easily fooled. He began with what he had learned, smart questions, light compliments, a touch of just right humor. She laughed, politely, but didn't step any closer toward him. Mike invited her for coffee. She agreed. The first date took place in a small cafe, soft jazz music, a round wooden table close enough to touch hands. But she didn't touch, didn't look at him long, didn't ask many questions, even though Mike felt he had done enough to score points. After the 3rd date, she sent him a message with just one line. You're a good man, but I don't feel like you're really here. Mike read it over and over, didn't understand. Then, like a slap that woke him up, he realized during all 3 meetings he had shown up like an actor, not as himself. Didn't talk about what he truly felt. Didn't stay quiet long enough to hear what she was feeling. He was just trying to be worthy. So Mike stopped playing the impressing game, stopped scripting the next date, Stopped thinking about what to say next so she'll find me interesting. The fourth time they met again, he didn't talk much. They sat together in the park. He let her begin. When she spoke, he didn't interrupt, didn't try to lighten the mood. When she mentioned past heartbreaks, he just listened, nodded, didn't try to heal, didn't try to be a hero, just was there. And that was the first time she touched his hand, not to hold, not to test, but as a reflex. Finally, I can breathe when I'm with you. Mike didn't know that what opens a woman's heart after pain isn't how cleverly you tap on her shell, but how long you can sit quietly in front of it so she feels safe to open it herself. From that day on, he was no longer the man trying to attract women. He became the man women felt safe being themselves around. And the strange thing is, when he stopped trying to be loved, that was exactly when he began to be truly loved again.
Since that date, Mike began to change not just the way he approached women, but the way he showed up in his own life. He paused more, looked longer, listened deeper. He no longer felt the need to always say the right thing, no longer feared being judged for his silence. He simply was present. And strangely, when he stopped trying to create attractive energy, that very energy began to radiate from him naturally. Years later, while reading the writings of Carl Jung, the psychoanalyst who transformed how we understand the human soul, Mike saw himself in every line. Jung once wrote, "The mature man is not the one who dominates a space, but the one who makes others feel at peace when they enter it. Not dominance, not a loud voice or a swaggering walk, but a steady calm, the kind of calm that draws others in without needing a reason." John Gottman, one of the world's leading marriage researchers, found the same truth in the most resilient couples. The husband didn't need to be eloquent, but he was truly present. He sat and listened without checking his phone. He heard her anger without becoming defensive. He held her hand when she cried without offering advice. And that, in psychology, is called masculine presence. A deep, steady, unhurried male presence that doesn't need to steal the spotlight. It's the kind of energy that makes a woman feel she can rest when she's with you. No need to perform, no need to be perfect. Just be herself, because you're grounded enough to hold that space for both of you. Mike realized he didn't need to become more interesting, more intelligent, more successful. He just needed to return with a steady heart, a non-judgmental gaze, and an unhurried breath. And when he became that kind of man, women no longer looked at him for what he said. They looked at him because being with him helped them see themselves again. Before Mike changed, he used to be the kind of man who was always doing something, always chasing, always trying, always acting. If she was slow to reply to messages, he would text even more. If she seemed a bit distant, he'd buy gifts, plan surprises, constantly try to spark conversation. He believed, if I try hard enough, she'll feel my love. But what he didn't know was that this pursuit, though born from love, carried a kind of energy women have a sharp intuition for, the energy of insecurity. When a man chases, he's sending out the signal that he needs to be accepted, that he needs her validation to feel worthy, and nothing makes a woman pull away faster than that. Not because she's arrogant, but because she's looking for a place to rest, not someone clinging to her out of fear of being left behind. On the other hand, when Mike started to pause, to sit still, to observe and listen, without reacting, without pushing, that's when she began to move closer. The man who stays is not silent because he has nothing to say, but because he no longer needs to prove anything. No need to take the spotlight. No need to control the outcome.
No need to make her choose him, because he knows the right woman will naturally choose the safety he brings. She senses this not with her mind, but with her body, her intuition, by how her thoughts relax when sitting beside him. Mike finally understood. Attractive men aren't attractive because they do everything right. They're attractive because they're steady enough not to be swept away by what's wrong. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is to do nothing at all except be truly present.
When Mike began to understand that a steady presence is what makes a woman feel safe and loved, he didn't look for any advanced techniques to prove his manhood. He simply returned to the basics, so simple that many men overlook them, yet powerful enough to change the entire atmosphere of a relationship. The first habit he established was setting aside a daily time block to be with his woman without touching any device. Just being by her side, in silence or listening. No TV, no phone, no chores, just the two of them. A space so quiet that even her breath could be heard. In the evening when she sat reading, he didn't ask, "What are you reading?" to start a conversation. He just sat next to her, clasping her hand if she wanted. Or he'd quietly prepare a cup of tea and leave it there. No explanations. No agenda, just presence. And strangely, it was in those doing nothing moments that genuine connection began to form. The second habit Mike practiced, though more challenging, became the deepest foundation for all closeness. Fully listening to what she said without interrupting or reacting immediately. The first time he tried it, he felt uneasy. His mind reflexively thought he had to explain it, defend his viewpoint, or fix her feelings. But then he learned to slow down his breathing. When she mentioned feeling tired, he didn't ask why, nor say, "You're overthinking it." He simply looked at her, nodded, and said, "I understand." Feeling that way makes complete sense. And in that moment, something wonderful happened. She didn't just feel heard, she felt safe. Because at last, the man beside her didn't try to silence her, didn't attempt to help or respond smartly. He simply allowed her to be herself. The third habit Mike maintained, which also made his love grow stronger, was creating a small emotional moment each day without any special reason. One day, he slipped a note into her wallet. "Are you feeling tired today? If so, let me hold you with my gaze." Another time, he texted midday, "I don't need a reason to be thinking of you." These gestures didn't make her burst into tears or rush into his arms immediately, but like a gentle rain, they seeped into the dry ground that, in the busyness of life, he himself had neglected. Mike realized when a man chooses genuine presence, every action he takes, no matter how small, becomes meaningful. A look, a touch, an unforced silence. All communicate the same message. I am here. I don't need anything from you. I only want to walk through each moment of this life with you. And in a noisy world, the man who knows how to stay quietly present at exactly the right moment is the one a woman wants to stay with the longest. There is one thing Mike no longer cares about after everything: his age. Not because he has forgotten he's past 50, but because he understands that maturity doesn't make him weaker, it makes him deeper. Before, he always thought attraction had to be proven. Words had to be smoother, the body had to be firmer, the walk had to be more confident. But after the journey back to himself, he realized what no book teaches and no speaker clearly states. Women don't love your youth. They love the safety in your heart. The greatest attraction of a man over 50 isn't in appearance, status, or dating skills. It lies in the profound stillness you carry every time you enter a room. It's when you look at her without expectation, just to listen. It's when you can sit beside her without saying a word, and she still feels loved. It's when you no longer need to win every argument, because you've learned to preserve connection more than your ego. Mike once thought he needed to be re-chosen, but the truth is he just needed to choose himself again first, with all the kindness, presence, and composure that his years had given him as a gift. And if you're at an age when people say it's too late to love again, I want to remind you, no one is more attractive than a man who's weathered storms, yet still keeps his heart warm enough for someone to lean on. You don't need to become anyone else. You just need to be yourself, steady, kind, and truly present. Because in the end, the woman who stays with you doesn't stay because you're younger. She stays because being with you makes her feel more herself.